Hello, welcome to another battle report. This is Ogre Kingdoms versus Orcs and Goblins, 2,400 points, battle for the past deployment. Anthony from the Sustainable Center's Orcs and Goblin Army versus my friend Mike's Ogre Kingdoms. Here you can see the view from Anthony's side of the board, his deployment. He's got a level 4 Orc Shaman attached to the Goblin Bunker in the back. He's got a level 1 Orc Shaman with the 5-up ward save head, and he has a Goblin BSB who he mistakenly thought was a Black Orc BSB when he deployed. So if you see that Black Orc in the block of savages on the far left, he's actually a Goblin and he's actually in the bunker. But we realized that a couple turns into the game, just explaining for this picture. Here's the view from Mike's side of the table. He has a level 2 Firebelly with the Hellheart. He has a level 4 Slaughtermaster with the Glittering Scales, Fencer's Blade, and the Crown of Command. And his BSB in the second rank of that unit, Iron Guts, has a great weapon and the Rampager standard so that they can re-roll their charge distance. Here you can see the spell selection for the Ogres. They have Spine Marrow, Bullgorger, Toothcracker, and Troll Guts, and then Fireball and Flamethorn on the Firebelly. And here you can see the spell selection for the Orcs and Goblins, with Anthony's little less than pleased with his list, so he just named it whatever. But yeah, so he has 4 Mournfangs with the Dragonhide banner on the left. That banner lets them reroll 1s in close combat, as well as do a Strength 3 breath weapon that causes the target to always strike last for 1 turn. A Sabertusk, big unit of Iron Guts with 2 characters in it. A big unit of Bulls with the Firebelly in the second rank. Stonehorn, Iron Blaster, and 2 more Sabertusks to round out the army. The Orcs and Goblins have 2 Rock Lobbers, 2 Doom Divers, a Goblin Wolf Chariot, 40 Savage Orcs, a Night Goblin Bunker, 50 strong Squig Herd. It's 36-14. 36 Squigs, 14 Herders in the back, and then 40 Black Orcs in bus formation right now. A Wolf Chariot, and 4 Spear Chuckas on the hill. To start the game off on turn 1, Anthony rolls Animosity for his bunkers. So that's the shamans out of the game for Magic for turn 1, and the army advances like so. Yep, here you can see his battle line after turn 1 movement, and the shooting starts. He lands, I want to say, 2 rocks on the Iron Guts, both of them centered on the Battle Standard Bearer. He makes 1 lookout, sir, but fails the other. So now we have 2 wounds on the Bruiser Battle Standard Bearer, and it kills 1 Ogre, across the unit. 4 Bolt Thrower shots into the Iron Guts. 1 of them hits, wounds, and does 3 wounds in the front rank, penetrates to the second rank, does additional 3 wounds, and then penetrates to the third rank to do an additional 3 wounds. So that's 4 Ogres dead from Orcs and Goblins shooting turn 1. I want to say the Doom Diver was also directed at that unit for additional ones. So you can see after Orcs and Goblins shooting, this is what the Ogre army looks like. And here's the board at the start of Ogre's turn 1. No charges. Everything advances to form a steady line. Here you can see what that looked like. For Winds of Magic, it was a... I can't really remember what happened. I just know that he cast the 12-inch bubble of Troll Guts centered on the Slaughtermaster. In doing so, Irresistible Force, which put a wound on both the Firebelly and the Slaughtermaster, and then ended the magic phase. So the Iron Guts, Bulls, and Mournfang all have 4-up regeneration for this turn. So here's what the board looked like at the start of Orcs and Goblins turn 2. To start off, the Squig Herd squabbles. They have to charge. They're mathematically, I think it's a possible charge, so they roll a failed charge against the Iron Guts, and the Wolf Chariot moves up to act as a speed bump. We had been forgotten, like I said, we had forgotten about the Savage Orcs still have to roll for Animosity, even though they're frenzied. And sure enough, Anthony rolls 2 1s. Since we had been playing at this point that there was a Black Orc character in it, he, smacks some orcs around and cracks some heads to prevent Animosity. So these are the casualties that Anthony picked up as a result of those failed animosity checks. Like I said, we later remembered that he's supposed to be a Night Goblin standard bearer or whatever and pulled him out of that unit, but it didn't really advance very far anyway, and Anti had picked up a few models, you know, assuming that he had been quelling animosity, so we just decided it was a wash. The Firebelly, I think, had cast Fireball before Troll Guts and put a wound on the Wolf Chariot. That's what that dice there is marking. During the magic phase, the Foot of Gork goes off. I think he stomps twice, but with Strength 6 on the Mournfang's armor, combined with the 4-up ward save, he actually only causes a few wounds. It really minimizes the threat of the Foot of Gork when your whole army, I guess, has regeneration. Another Rock Lava lands on target, but he makes a lookout serve for the Firebelly and only causes a few wounds to a bull. And then the 4 Spear Chuckers target the Stonehorn and put a wound on it. Here you can see what the board looked like at the beginning of Ogre's turn 2. Here's the battle line. The Stonehorn charges the Wolf Chariot. The Wolf Chariot turns and flees. Well, there's really nothing that's in range to redirect to, so he just attempts to complete the charge, and it catches and runs down the Wolf Chariot right there in front of the Horde of Savage. Maybe the Mournfang declared a charge against the other Wolf Chariot, and that's why it's turned away and fleeing. Here's what it looks like after the rest of the army advances. And here's another angle of what the Ogre battle line looks like at the end of turn 2 movement. In Magic, he gets Spine Marrow off on the Stonehorn, so the Stonehorn now is stubborn. And then once again casts the bubble, the 12-inch bubble of Troll Guts, irresistibly. This miscast reduces the Slaughtermaster to a level 3 wizard. He loses Troll Guts for the rest of the game, and that's the end of the magic phase because it takes the rest of his power dice away. In shooting, the Iron Blaster misfires. And, you know, again, there was no close combat because the Stonehorn had just run down that chariot. Here you can see a better angle of what the Sabertusk had done to act as a speed bump for the Savage Orcs. He can't complete a charge on the Sabertusk without swinging and contacting the Stonehorn, so the Sabertusk will close the door on that, and you'll see that in another picture during Anthony's turn. So the Savage Orcs declare their charge. Here you can see what happens with the Sabertusk. This is Orcs and Goblins turn 3. Doomdiver shooting, I want to say, puts another wound on the Mournfang, and that's what we're looking at. It might have been Foot of Gork as well. In close combat, Savage Orcs kill the Sabertusk, no question, and overrun into the Stonehorn. And in Magic, I remember that he got the Hand of Gork off. So if you remember that Squig Herd had a failed charge due to its failed animosity check earlier in the game, the Hand of Gork was used to teleport them across the battlefield and pulling the Squig Herd back to maintain a battle line. The Wolf Chariot, I guess, had rallied. I don't even really know what had happened with that. I think it rallied and is now just acting as a speed bump. So the beginning of Ogre's turn 3, the Bulls with the Firebelly declare a charge against the Savages. In doing so, they roll an 11. That's an Ogre charge, so that'll be D3 impact hits per Ogre instead of the usual 1 impact hit for Ogres. And since it's 3 ranks, they're going to be Strength 7 on the charge. The Iron Guts declare a charge against the Wolf Chariot, who holds. He rolls an Ogre charge there as well, so that's going to be a bunch of Strength 5 impact hits because it's 1 complete rank. And the Mournfang declare a charge against the Squig Herd. However, due to the placement of the Iron Guts and the order in which the charge were completed, they couldn't get all the Mournfangs in base contact. So, I mean, that's probably for the best because that way the Black Orcs are only going to be able to charge into the front instead of a flank if he had moved further into the unit. But it's, you know, we'll see. So here's what it looks like after all the charges have been completed. You can see that one of the Sabertusks charged into one of the Spear Chuckers. Here you can see that. And the other Sabertusk completed a charge against the Rock Lava. In Magic, he gets the 12-inch bubble of Bull Gorger off, so that's +1 strength on the Iron Guts, Bulls, and the Mournfang. And here we are after combat for the unit of Savage Orcs versus the Stonehorn and the Bulls. This is post-reforms. That pile of Savage Orcs is what's left after all of those bull attacks. The Firebelly's breath weapon and the attacks from the Stonehorn. However, all of those attacks killed 2 bulls in response, put 2 more wounds on another, I want to say, or maybe those were carryover from shooting wounds, and kills the Stonehorn. So the Savage Orcs lose combat, pass their leadership check as they are steadfast, and then reform into a boss facing the bulls. The bulls reform to go 4 wide from 3 wide to get additional attacks in. Here's a better view of what this combat looks like after all the models are cleared away. The Saber Tusk takes 1 wound from the Spear Chukka's crew, but beats them in combat, runs them down, and overruns into another Spear Chukka. And the other one kills the Doom Diver, kills the Rock Lava, and makes its leadership test to just restrain and reform. So that was pretty good luck, considering Saber Tusks are like leadership 4 or whatever. And if you notice, a little compare and contrast exercise, the Squig Herd is greatly diminished by the Mournfangs. The Mournfangs unleash the breath weapon for a bunch of strength 3 hits, as well as their impact hits, regular attacks, and it's a tremendous reduction in the number of Squigs there to do reprisal attacks. And since there weren't very many Squigs in base contact to begin with, he's only going to be taking like 12 of the strength 5 weapon skill 4 attacks, and then the riders. I think a rider, not a rider, a herder, the little goblins in the back. I think a goblin spear poke is the one that manages to put another wound onto the Mournfang unit, so they've got 1 wound left on that 1 model. The Wolf Chariot gets destroyed, and those Iron gets overrun a short distance. Here's another view of what this looks like after combat's been resolved. The Squig Herd now has Always Strikes Last as a side effect of being hit by that Banner's breath weapon. Here we go at the beginning of Orcs and Goblins turn 4. The Night Goblin mob in the back fails its animosity check, and then for the animosity table, they roll a 1, so they're gonna throw dung and curse and attract the attention of the nearest friendly units. So they actually get into a fight with the Rock Lava directly behind them, and they do a bunch of strength 3 hits to each other, which kills a few Night Goblins. He charges the bus of Black Orcs into the Mournfang, and that's about it for charges and movement. Yeah, here you can see what it looks like after the animosity rolls on those 2 models. Doom Diver is on target, Stone Thrower is on target, kills 2 Iron Guts, and puts 2 wounds on another. Or maybe, no, I'm sorry, those 2 wounds are for the BSB, from when he got hit on that. Just as a comment on Gut Magic, whenever the Slaughtermaster successfully casts a spell, he has a chance to heal himself of a wound suffered earlier, as well as get a +1 on his next attempt. So any wounds inflicted on the Slaughtermaster throughout the battle, he's been healing himself back by casting successfully these Gut Magic spells. Here we go, second round of combat between the Savage Orcs and the Bulls. During this turn, I want to say Mike got both Bull Gorger and Tooth Cracker off. And now this unit is Strength 5, Toughness 5. I'm pretty sure it might just be Bull Gorger. Either way, Strength 5, the Savages are no longer frenzied because they lost combat. And, the word saves just weren't there for Anthony here, because as you can see, a big pile of model gets picked up from those attacks. They lose combat, break, flee, and the Bulls pursue. However, they get away, and that's what it looks like at the end of Orcs and Goblins turn 4. The Mournfang are killed to I actually think the Mournfang weren't killed to the last man. They still had the standard barrow. However, they broke in close combat and fled. This then kills the standard bearer anyway from the last stand rule. The Black Orcs were able to restrain. The Squig Herd failed, I think, its test to restrain, or overrun anyway, because that's a fine place for them to be. They charge into the Iron Guts. So here's what the board looks like at the end of Orcs and Goblins turn 4, the beginning of Ogre Kingdom's turn 4. I guess it probably was just Bull Gorger. And here's a dramatic shot of the Firebelly and his posse chasing the Savage Orcs as they flee. And here's a dramatic shot of the Iron Guts in close combat with the Squig Herd. Oh yes, this is to show that one of the Saber-Tusks completes a charge against the Doom Diver in the back. The other Saber-Tusk had killed its Spear Chukka, overran, stayed on the board, and this turn it reforms to charge into another one. The Bulls unit declares a charge against the Savage Orcs. They're fleeing, so they still flee. They run off the table, and the Bulls follow them. So even though they're off the table right now, we just turn them around and put them on the edge to remember that they'll be coming in next turn on turn 5. The Chariot moves up like that, the Iron Blaster Chariot. In the Magic phase, on just the Iron Guts unit, he gets off both Bull Gorger and Toothcracker, so they are now Strength 5, Toughness 5 Ogres, with Grey Weapons, so up to Strength 7. The Slaughtermaster's Toughness 5 base, so now he's Toughness 6. Here's what it looks like at the beginning of combat, I'm pretty sure. And then they go through, like a whirlwind. With toughness 5, the Ogres take some casualties, but it's not really all that terrible. Maybe he got irresistible force or something, or maybe just an attack got through on the Slaughtermaster, but the Slaughtermaster's got 1 wound there. Or maybe I just mismarked the BSB. The end result of combat is that the Night Goblin Squig Herd gets really beaten up. They're testing on Snake Eyes, and Anthony rolls Snake Eyes. So they're going to hold for this turn. The Black Orcs reform, expecting the Squig Herd to get destroyed during the beginning, during Orcs and Goblins, and not really able to complete their charge. I'm trying to remember the chain of events because I think I might have gotten my charges wrong earlier in the game. In any event, at this turn, this is post-combat with the Squig Herd. They'd wiped out them all on the Orcs and Goblins, or maybe that's what that picture was to show. Anyway, the Squig Herd had been wiped out completely, and then at the beginning of Ogre's turn 5, he declares a charge on the Night Goblins in the back. It's a long charge. He's probably not going to make it, but the unit has the Rampager standard, so they can reroll their charge distances, and they make it. Actually, given a look at the Magic cards, I'm going to say that perhaps the overrun for the Squig Herd, maybe that wasn't their charge. Maybe that was the Iron Guts charge into them. Anthony's going to probably be uploading his perspective of this, and he'll double check that. But I'm going to say that that's probably what happened. The Bulls march back on Ogre's turn 5. They can't charge, but they do march onto the table, and the Chariot moves up like so. Once again, the Ogres get Bull Gorger and Toothcracker off in the Magic phase. So they are now, they're Toughness 5 and Strength 5. A cannon shot through the Black Orcs takes out literally 8, the entire thing. The cannonball, he puts the cannonball marker 8 inches away and rolls 8 inches to bounce up directly in front of the unit, and then rolls like 8 or 10 to bounce through the entire unit. Every hit wounds, so that's 8 Black Orcs dead from a cannonball shot. And then he kills the level 4 with the great weapon attacks from his BSB, and just knocks about a bunch of Night Goblins. They're going to be testing on Snake Eyes, I'm pretty sure. Maybe they were Steadfast, but they fail their check. The BSB is killed by the Last Stand rule. The units run down, and they overrun into the rock lava. Oh no, they actually fall short of overrunning into the rock lava. My mistake. So here's what it looks like at the beginning of Orcs and Goblins turn 6. Yes. Yeah, here you go. This is turn 6, Orcs and Goblins. The Black Orcs move up. There's really not much for them to do. They're already in bus formation, but they've got a nearly impossibly long charge against the Ogre unit, and even if they do complete it, it's only going to be in the flank against the Slaughtermaster, who is buffed with +1 strength and toughness, and also a incredibly hard guy to hurt, weapon skill 10, -1 to hit, so the Black Orcs will be hitting on 6s. So at this point, game's pretty much done. We rounded it out, just played the last turn. The Ogres didn't really have any charges to declare, so they just all reformed to face the block, and then went through a round of shooting. And the Firebelly gets off Firestorm to kill a handful of Black Orcs, and that just further cements it that they're not really going to beat these two unit of Ogres in close combat. So in the end, crushing victory for the Ogre Kingdoms. And it was a great game. I mean, these two armies, I got to say, in the beginning of the match, I was just watching and taking pictures because I've been playing against Anthony a bunch of times, so I figured it'd be nice to have new opponents, and it's always nice to get a game in when Mike's in town. And the game started off seeming like if the Ogres had to endure a couple more rounds of Anthony's Orcs and Goblins shooting, which is really potent, Doom Divers, bypassing armor saves on the Mournfang, for example, Stone Throwers, killing Ogres outright with that Strength 9 hit under the hole. A couple more rounds of that, and he'd be really depleted. And the Orcs and Goblins, these big combat hordes are really no slouches, but the two 12-inch bubble irresistible troll guts giving the whole army regen put those fears to rest considerably. So now the whole army is shrugging off Foot of Gork, it's shrugging off Spear Chuckas and Rock Lobbas like left and right. And when the Ogre Kingdoms contact the Orcs and Goblins battle line, it's almost entirely on their terms with full combat effectiveness. And due to some of the strange charges, like the Squig Herd didn't get to get its full attacks in on the Mournfang, which just benefits the Mournfang because they have a really narrow frontage for that many attacks. And then the Black Orcs were kind of left stymied by only partially contacting one Mournfang, so they didn't even get to get their full attacks in. So without any real way to leverage all of these hordes against the smaller footprint of the Ogres got to kind of pick and choose their fights. And Magic I want to speak about briefly. Anthony's level 4 was out of the game due to animosity 2 turns, and then on some other turns, the Ogres got their spells off irresistibly and it didn't even matter. So when you lose the ability to dispel or even reliably have access to magic at all, I mean, you saw the effect of Strength 5, Toughness 5 Ogres. They're just beasts. They're mediocre weapon skill, mediocre leadership, decent strength and toughness normally, but when you add +1, strength and toughness, or just +1 strength, they're now considerably more dangerous. And when you lose the ability to cast or dispel with your level 4, it's very hard to hold that in check. So I think Anthony and Mike both played a really good game, and I just was able to kind of walk around and take pictures and try to keep my opinion of the game to myself, But I don't want to be like backseat driving. But I really do think that it was a great game, and it's good for them to play different opponents and stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the battle report. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Here are just some pictures of the remainder of the forces at the end of the game, just from different angles and stuff. There you go. There's everybody that's left on the board right now.